your tie, your
my
hair,
name,
your shoes, certainly your shoes.
Just out of shot, there's a supply teacher on fire in those
exactly.
that you can't quite see. But yeah, I mean, if a child might be messing about, and I say, "Can you stop messing about?" and they say, "Allow it, sir. Allow it."
Allow it.
Allow it, which is quite an easy one, because it's just allow it.
Allow it.
Allow it, sir.
Sure.
So
allow it, sir.
Allow it, sir. And if I'm quite annoyed at what they're doing, they are burning something down or whatever, stabbing someone, and then, they say, jam your hype.
Jam your hype.
Jam your hype.
Jam your hype.
My telling them off is the hype,
right.
And to jam it is to
shut the hell up.
Yeah, exactly. So I find myself kind of saying, rather than trying to get down with them, like, it works the opposite way. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to jam my hype.
Sarcasm.
I will not allow it.
Something which teenagers always respond to, of course, sarcasm from an older person.
It's impossible not to be. I can understand why there is dark sarcasm in the classroom.
Yeah, sure. Even now,
Pink Floyd, which, by the way, is really rubbish, isn't it? That kind of lyric, like, it's like, teacher, leave those kids alone, and all the bad things that teachers do. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. It's like, the teacher was sarcastic to me.
yeah. Ooh, no.
Really horrible. How dare they?
And so I would hope that over if you make future appearances, we can hopefully build up a glossary of terms.
Absolutely, a glossary of terms, so the listeners can know exactly why they're being murdered.
Sure, exactly. As they're being beaten to death at a bus stop, they'll know. Well, they should just allow it. Allow it.
Is it true that texting is now so dominant amongst school children that's now lending to the language? So instead of saying that's really cool, because the word book comes before cool in predictive text, they say, yeah, that's really a book, man. That is book. Yeah, see.
Really?
Yeah, they say like that's so book. What you just said, totally, man. I can't believe it.
Is that Nelson Mandela?
That's
BBC 6 Music.
Are the klaxons being listened to in schoolrooms all over the country?
No, not really. Rock is not listened
It's
to.
not happening.
No, in fact, there was one assembly where the headmaster said, for a special treat, we now have the school rock band, and the response was,
what are they called? School rock band.
Actually, they were not given a name. They were just the school rock band. I don't know.
Maybe that's an ironic kind of name that they've taken for themselves.
It's nice, but they're all hip hop crazy, and they're like Akon and Rihanna and all that kind of thing. And
Hey, who doesn't?
yeah, exactly.
Keep it real. Is there much hand gesturing? Like people giving people respect.
There is a kind of
fist touching.
Fist touching, yeah. Occasionally they say touch. When you do that.
as you actually do it, you even pedantically explain what's happening.
Say touch. I don't know why they're just commentating on what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Show is another one. I don't know what that means.
That's probably better that you don't know what that means.
They say show. I say show. Back. I'm none the wiser.
They're probably mocking you again. You've
probably got something stuck to your back as they're saying it.
But I think because kids are so cool. I mean, particularly that sort of 14-year-old age group, are vicious. So I mean, absolutely heartless people. I remember there was a teacher at our school, and his cat had died. He was a very emotional man anyway, and his cat had got run over, and he came into the English class, and one of them had drawn a car on the chalkboard, driving over a dead cat, and he came in, burst into tears, ran out again. I thought, well, your career's over in this school. You can't come back from that.
No.
If you've cried in front of the kids, it's over. It's over for you. There's no way you can talk about Dickens and anyone's listening. It's just not happening.
That was a mark of respect in our school. If you could make a supply teacher cry, you had credit as a class.
Yeah.
And we had a French supply teacher called, her surname was Kermode. You're on the back foot there.
Ooh.
And I think it was a 13-minute record, and she was sobbing.
Really?
Yeah, I had nothing to do with that.
Of course you didn't.
Really? But yeah. And we also had a very short fellow who used to refer to himself in the third person. So he'd call himself Sir. It was really, he was brilliant.
But it's like you say, the idea of trying to reach them by appealing to their intellect or appealing to their sort of cultured side, which is so difficult to do. I remember there was one teacher who tried to appeal to us, tried to sort of teach us a lesson about sarcasm by playing a clip from a 1933 Marx Brothers film. So it's me giggling hysterically, no one else. People just shouting, throwing stuff. What's he doing? Yeah. It's that strange idea that somehow, well, this is classic comedy. We can reach them, we can get through to them. But you can't. I don't know how you can get through to them unless you sell them crack. That seems to be the only way of appealing. What exactly is your responsibility? What does the teacher's assistant do? Do you just clean the board? Is that what you do? I genuinely don't know. Obviously, I don't know.
I am there to support the class,
right.
To help with learning, to explain, for example, as I was trying to do, the difference between a simile and a metaphor.
Oh, tricky.
It is. I got the right. I said, what's the sort of simile and metaphor? This kid said, my mum. I think they were being sarcastic.
Sure.
Again, yeah. So it's uphill work.
It sounds like it. Well, I look forward to delving more into, because as I say, I'm keen to know what's happening with the youth.
Yeah.
Lest I be stuck on a bus with them, perhaps late night, as if I would travel on a bus. Sammy, it's your musical choice. What have you got for us?
I've got a song by the Bumblebees, who are an Australian brother and sister duo from Australia, which is kind of covered with them being Australian.
Yep.
And it's called I've Come With Water. It's very short, so don't go and get any cups of tea or go to the toilet or anything.
All right, thank you. Australian Bumblebees short. Thank you very much indeed, Sammy. I was driving home once. I have a car, and I was just pulling into my garage. I have a garage. Thank you. And there's a gang of youths in the street, lingering in the street, in that kind of dominant, we own this world, and we're not going to move out of the way of your car, we're forcing you to slow down, which I did. And they were, I'm not going to lie to you, they were smoking doobie. And they were drinking beer. And they were lingering very near my garage, and I managed to eventually, they eyed me up through the glass of the windscreen, and then they sort of edged away, and they sort of ushered me past, like it was like a checkpoint, like a teenage checkpoint. And I drove into I got to the garage, and I hurried out. I was a bit fearful of them, and I had to manually, I sadly don't have an electronic garage, and I just work harder. If I could sell more DVDs. And I opened the garage, and I saw them coming towards me, so I hopped back in the car, I drove in, I just got the garage door closed before they arrived on my forecourt, right? And I could hear them outside the garage door like a baying pack of wolves, kind of like, they didn't recognise me, they were just youths up to something, and they were like, hammering on there and kind of making noises, like something from quite a bad sort of John Carpenter 70s thing. You know how people never acted like humans in those things? They come in and they make weird noises, and this is what they were like, and they were drinking their beers, and I could smell the doobie, and when I bleeped it to sort of lock it, security lock it, it made a kind of the horn went off. It was rather lame, and I was just fearful. But I thought if I buzz the car, it's going to go. They'll think I'm just trying to sort of cause trouble, try and bait them. Exactly. They'll probably kick their way in. So I just had to cower in the garage for ages.
You're trapped in your own garage.
Trapped in my own garage, unable to security lock the car, just waiting for this gang of ne'er-do-wells to leave outside. I could hear the cans, and another one would crack open. I thought, well, they're not moving anywhere, and they were chit-chatting and texting. And I was there for ages. I know.
How long were you there for?
Long enough for me to write a stiff letter to the Daily Mail. As you might imagine. Before we get to the news, I just want to squeeze in a track by Ola Padrida, which is a band that, or an artist I should say, that Vic, who's our web guru and who hopefully will come back in the next few weeks with some more internet-sourced music, he introduced me to this band, and so it's basically a Texan singer-songwriter called David Wingo, and as I say, records under the name Ola Padrida, and this is a track called Instead. Come on, Tony, that is slack work. Do not cough in an on-air studio. It lowers the tone of Six Music.
I've embarrassed myself.
It brings Six Music
revealed my inexperience.
And it brings Six Music into disrepute, and frankly, they're doing a good enough job of that themselves. They do not need you adding to the misery. I'd like to see a lot of this BBC scandal dealt with in the style of The Sopranos. I'd like to see Alan Yentop taken into a forest and beaten to within an inch of his life, just to see how he'd react. I'm sure he wouldn't be faking his noddies then, I can guarantee. I think I might become in charge of the BBC one day. It's a dream of mine. That was Ola Padrida and a track called Instead from an album I believe called Ola Padrida, and if you like that, you may enjoy Jose Gonzalez, who is in the Hub on is it Gideon Coe's show tomorrow, so enjoy that. Back after the news with choices from the Pigeonhole, including a new single from Ian Brown from 1984 and the album It's My Life. That is It's My Life. Talk of course, it's the Steve Show, BBC Six Music, with me, Stephen Merchant, and my cronies. We've got Sammy here, she's from the north.
It's true.
Thank you. We've got Tony here, he works with children.
It is also true.
Great. And we also have Super Posh Rufus.
I won't contest that.
No one will. No. Rufus, what's the most interesting thing that's happened to you this week? Maybe you shouldn't have eaten that lovely bit of banana cake as I asked you that question.
I'd rather having him come to me first.
Well, sloppy work. Unprofessional.
Yesterday,
tick against Six Music.
Just keep talking while I finish the...
Well, I should also point out, also in the studio, of course, Crazy Madwoman Jude, our producer, clinically insane. Maybe we should each have a kind of a sort of DLT-style amusing jingle we can play. You know, maybe yours, obviously, Insane in the Membrane. Every time we mention your name. Jude, Insane in the Membrane. Maybe Sammy, Fog on the Town is all mine, all mine. And I don't have one for Posh Rufus. Great.
Well, don't know. Yeah,
Mad Dog's an Englishman.
Mad Dog's an Englishman.
nice.
Thank you very much. All right. Jude's making a note of it like that's an actual idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to put him on the card.
No, that is not going to happen. It's not 1984. I am not Gary Davis, although many would dispute that. So, Rufus, most interesting thing this week?
Yeah,
for
well,
you?
yesterday, Steve, was my brother's 40th birthday party.
Happy birthday to him.
I went along, thank you very much. It was a wonderful party, and I was wondering if any of you thought who the poshest person there was. Each one have a guess.
You and your brother pretty high on the list, I would
Yeah.
imagine. Do you associate with Scum?
No, I tend not
so
to.
pretty much everyone.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
classy.
Who's the
were you
poshest?
announced as you entered?
Unfortunately not.
Rufus
no.
Wright and his fiancée.
I'm Mr. Rufus Wright.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I wasn't. Any guesses? Any posh people you think might be there?
Is it
No.
royal?
Could be.
Minor royalty?
Not so minor.
Oh,
No, I was
wow.
going to say Sarah Ferguson.
Princess Michael of somewhere.
No, posher. Definitely posher than that.
Prince
Really?
Andrew.
Yeah. Prince Andrew. Yeah.
Was that right?
Prince Andrew. Yeah. And the
Well,
weirdest
if
thing.
there was karaoke, I imagine he was straight there.
Yes. Listen, suggestions. What would Prince Andrew
Yeah.
have sung had there been karaoke?
Oh, no, don't bother with that. We'll be here all night.
It would be great. Anyway, so what happened was, there I was, just me and him chatting to Prince, and the first thing he said to me was, I hear you're getting engaged, which made me think, maybe he's a fan of the show.
Well,
you
or
know
he's
what I
got
mean?
someone who stands next to him and just whispers interesting things about each person he speaks to.
He did have two bodyguards, one at either end of the bar, with very shiny shoes and very kind of glum faces.
Blending in perfectly.
But I almost sniggered, because I never quite know how to, because you're meant to say, hello, your Royal Highness, and bow, and not shake their hand until they extend their hand to shake it, and then you call them sir from then on. I didn't do any of these.
Well, surely in an informal birthday celebration, those rules don't apply.
exactly. Well, this is what I thought to myself. And when I introduced a kind of sweating Melanie, my fiancée, to the Duke, may I present?
We should
His
point out her
Royal
name's not
Highness-
sweating.
No, it's not.
She's not a kind of musical act.
Poor girl, no. She's listening now, I know. And I'm embarrassed myself. But no, I said, may I present His Royal Highness the Duke of York, and everything was fine. But and he was very charming and looked at the ring and said all the kind of polite things. But I genuinely thought maybe he listens to our show every Sunday. That's how he knows.
Sure.
And if so, maybe he says, I tell you what, I'm with Sammy on Gomez. And, you know.
I love the klaxons.
Exactly. Whatever happened to the Finnish has got music question, I hate Rocket from the Crypt. Don't know why Harry thinks they're so great. Well, I really hope that would happen.
Sure.
It didn't.
Oh, the whole time you're thinking to yourself, must not mention It's a Raw Knockout.
Yeah.
Never discuss this again.
Yeah.
Lest we forget, John Travolta was one of the celebrity contestants.
Was he?
Extraordinary. It was in that lull before he had his renaissance. So he was in his, even I think before Look Who's Talking, they persuaded Travolta, and the megastar John Travolta there, on some kind of slippery pole.
Dressed as Humpty Dumpty. Trying to get some water to the Duchess of York.
And so were you able to have a conversation?
Yeah, we had a brief chat. I mean, I never quite know what to talk to him. I've only met him a couple of times, but I've never know what to say to really, really, really famous people, particularly when they're on their own. Because the thing about really famous people is they don't like being left alone, and they don't like being ignored, and it's embarrassing for a very, very famous person to be standing on their own in a room with no one talking to them.
Of course.
No one's talking to them because they're frightened of talking to them, but the fact is they're still on their own. But the Duke, very, very charming, but not the most kind of fervent conversationalist. So I did start off a couple of gambits, which didn't go very far, and then just got a bit sweaty. And
What did you start?
So-
I'm interested to know what.
well, Lance was about to play it with his band, and I said, "Have you ever seen him play before on the guitar?"
That sounds like you're doing a bad impression of his brother.
And he said that he had, but not as part of a band. And then we stopped talking for a bit, and both
Sure.
he's looked forward a bit at my brother playing the guitar, and then I asked him something else glib, and he kind of replied fairly abruptly.
And just walked away.
Not quite. Luckily, someone came and kind of distracted him, and then we were relieved of each other's company, because we didn't have a huge amount to say to each other.
Sure.
He's got very nice hands.
Have you had difficulty talking to royalty? Get in touch. See, I imagine that. I love the idea that the average Six Music listener could, in any way. Isn't it tricky when you have to make conversation with a royal and you've got nothing?
My favourite little thing there was, I've only met him a couple of times. Oh, well, that's fine then, yeah.
Wow, that's extraordinary. Well, Simon, naturally, I'll come to you later. I imagine you'll have a similarly high-class anecdote.
You have no
Something
idea.
involving your father's underpants or something? I don't know.
He wears no underpants.
Of course it is.
This is the North.
Before